You've got 60 seconds to give us a takeaway message to CISOs, CIOs, etc. Um, what would you tell them?
Honestly, and I genuinely mean this, the more we can focus on outcomes customers care about, the better, right? And I fall into the trap too. I talk about the shiny new feature, the capability, the tech, I get excited about it. But for all customers, it's a little bit different. If you know where you are in your security journey, tell me those outcomes. Tell my cybersecurity advisor those outcomes. Tell your rep at the company those outcomes. The more we can align on them, the better we can start to achieve them, and we can move on to the next one.
Over the past few years, organizations have, modified their approach to detection and response. What are the biggest shifts you've observed in how SOCs operate today, and what challenges do customers still face?
One thing I see a lot differently and hear from customers when I talk to them, and then our own SOC as well, is this demand for more environmental context. Like, understand the actual organization, the company that you're working within, because I think for years we've seen the limits of just doing things generically. Kind of if we turn back the clock of why does MDR even exist? Well, MSSPs were solving a problem, but doing it very generically, right? We weren't getting the outcomes we wanted. And now we're at the point where we're demanding more, which is great. And I think one of the walls we hit right now is we really need to understand customer context a lot better.
Welcome back to the Security Strategist podcast, your blueprint for evolving cybersecurity. My name is Richard Stiennon, and I will be your host for this episode. I'm the Chief Research Analyst at IT Harvest, an author, and a trusted advisor to vendors, VCs, and private equity firms. Today, we're talking with Daniel Martin, Director of Product Management at Rapid7. He oversees detection response, and more specifically, their MDR service and latest SIEM innovation, Incident Command, both of which incorporate compelling AI capabilities. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Richard. It's great to be here.
Yeah, tell us, your journey, how you got to this role, and what you do for Rapid7.
Yeah, so I'll make it brief. I've been doing product management for longer than I knew product management was a job. Somebody had to tell me that was the job. And when I found my way to security, I had a very great bit of advice, which is when you get to security, you either love it and you'll never leave, or you'll hate it and go immediately, right? And so clearly I loved it, never left. Brought me through threat intelligence, ultimately to Rapid7. And here I've been here a little over 5 years. And as you mentioned, I own the detection response part of the portfolio. Specifically our Incident Command offering, as you mentioned, and then the MDR service that we deliver.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know our audience is going to want to learn about the MDR services, but specifically what's going on in the AI world. So Daniel, over the past few years, organizations have modified their approach to detection and response. What are the biggest shifts you've observed in how SOCs operate today, and what challenges do customers still face?
Yeah, we'll get to the last part, but just to hit that, I think there are a lot of the same challenges, which can be frustrating, but also I think clarifying. I think we have technology that enables us to do a lot more. But I think it's important, in any SOC leader, CISO you talk to will say it's largely the same problems, new threats, but the same problems. One thing I see a lot differently and hear from customers when I talk to them, and then our own SOC as well, is this demand for more environmental context. Like, understand the actual organization, the company that you're working within, because I think for years we've seen the limits of just doing things generically. Kind of if we turn back the clock of why does MDR even exist? Well, MSSPs were solving a problem, but doing it very generically, right? We weren't getting the outcomes we wanted. And so MDR came with a much more narrow focus, which I think was better, like actually had better outcomes for detection and response. And now we're at the point where we're demanding more, which is great. And I think one of the walls we hit right now is we really need to understand customer context a lot better. And that's obviously not like a novel insight, but some of the capabilities we have to do that, to understand exposure, to understand attack surface, and truly leverage that to make decisions in detection response, I think the exciting part for me is we're at the point where we have technology that can genuinely enable that, and customers also seeing the value and demanding it, and seeing both of those is a great opportunity.
Help me understand the business. It's when I see a vendor of products, such as Rapid7, introduce MDR services, it always strikes me as it's jarring, because typically I talk to vendors who view other MSSPs as a channel and they want to sell to them. And if all of a sudden you're competing with them, how does that interfere with that sales process?
Yeah. So I think one thing is, when you get into the sales process of it, you're totally right. Even when you talk about MSSPs or MSPs, right, there's very different flavors. And it really comes back to, what are you trying to achieve for the customer, right? Sometimes a customer's coming and they're wanting to achieve multiple outcomes, one of which might be a detection response service. But there's multiple IT services they need as well. There's multiple remediation services. In that case, what we're looking for, what we're talking about from a selling perspective is like, how do we actually sell through the channel to ensure we actually solve the totality of the customer problem and not just the one that we care about, right? To your point about the MDR service from a product company, I think we've seen that evolution a lot in the last couple of years, right? Some of the most pure product companies you can think about are leaning heavily into MDR. Yep. And my point of view on this is, often that's not because the product is too hard to operate or takes too much time. Sometimes that's the case, by the way. But often they're looking for a true partnership, because what we see too is we have experts at our SOC 24/7 that see evil every single day, right? And that's just a fact. That's just the way it is. And so when we see evil, we know what to do. We snap into our incident response plan, and we're responding. If a customer is trying to operate a product or even partner as a service, they expect that from us. Like, we need to be there for them at their time of need. And so the MDR service, I think, is much more to me about a partnership when we do it well, than it is about, hey, I can't figure out how to work this product. Can you just do it for me? Right? Like, that's when I see it work really well.
Great answer. Thank you for that. So Rapid7 recently launched its Incident Command. You describe it as your new SIEM offering that combines SOAR and threat intelligence. Can you walk us through that? And what's the difference between what you had before and what you've got now?
Yeah, so it actually kind of comes back, I think, unintentionally to part of my answer before, which was, if we need to understand more about the environment, how do we bring that context at the point of the workflow, at the time when it matters to the analyst, right? And so for us, what that means is obsessing over bringing that context and those capabilities into the SIEM experience, right? And I think SIEM has gone through many, many evolutions. The reality is it's still very core to many SOC operations, to many security operations, for very good reason, right? For all the challenges it's had with scaling and all of that, it still solves some really, really critical problems. So to improve that experience, right, how do we improve what we call decision support in the SOC in the moment, right? So I don't have to open up another tab, go to another place. When there's an alert that has relevant threat intelligence, show me right there. Right, that's one of the things our analysts are saying. If I'm going to get through, and we care about mean time to respond and SLAs and things like that, then I've got to be able to optimize for making a high quality decision quickly. And so threat intelligence is a great example of, don't flood me with information about IOCs. Tell me when it really matters and is going to impact my decision. And automation, right, has been kind of brought into SIEMs for a while. But same thing there. Don't give me a whole separate tool that's super, super powerful, but takes so much time and energy to deploy and get set up. Have it be as frictionless as possible so I can have, when possible, one-click automations, right? And we all know one-click automation, there's still going to be work up front. But the goal is, can you make it easy to actually take those actions without significant upfront support and ongoing maintenance, right? And so that's our goal there. That will be a forever challenge, I believe. But one worthy, because when we see customers adopt automation well, both the satisfaction and ability to execute on outcomes goes way up.
Okay, you use the word automation, and today I think I count, 31 SOC automation solutions that have just come on the market, all leveraging AI. Talk me through your approach to automation.
Yeah. Don't forget hyper automation. That one took me a while to try to figure out, right?
Or actually, a lot are saying, "Oh, we're going beyond automation to autonomous something or other."
That's right. And we'll be somewhere new in about a week, right? So This is, some of the fun of our industry. The part that I'm really, really excited about, and some of the, call it AI powered capabilities that we're still exploring and still trying to nail perfectly in every scenario, is automation is great, and deterministic automation is really great for security outcomes, right? Because I can trust them, right? I know what they're going to do every time. It's auditable, and for the cybersecurity space, of course, this is critically important. But we all know the other problems with it too, like very brittle, integrations fail, and so this is where you see some of that autonomous hyper automation buzzwords come in. What is really exciting about that, I think, is not sometimes the most flashy pieces. But it's those points in a process. If you're running and call it an automated playbook, where you can be deterministic, by all means, please do, right? Because again, we can rely on that. We can view the workflow. We know what's happening. Where you actually need a summary of what's happened, right? Where you actually need to have a little bit of reasoning to understand maybe the context of like, is it worth it for me to go grab a bunch more data? Those are the moments where we're trying to understand what agents can do to help. But I genuinely believe it's part of the whole process, right? In almost all cases, that we can leverage AI at points in an automated investigation. But for the most part, we all know we don't want to be chaining non-deterministic decisions together, because what we do on a Monday is going to be different than what we do on a Wednesday, and literally no customer is going to be very happy about that.
Walk me through the process for your analysts, who are live and at the forefront of countering evil, as you say. How do they learn from what's happening and then enhance the response and automation from there?
Yeah, so this has been one, I think, especially in the past year, right, as we've been introducing new capabilities, we're very, very aware of any time we put something new in the SOC analyst workflow, especially when you think about an MDR SOC analyst who, again, is optimizing for speed and high quality decisions. Anytime you change that workflow, you better be really sure it improves the outcome, or have the ability to measure that and quickly change if it's not actually having the hypothesized impact there. So I'll just be candid. One of the missteps that we actually had when introducing our first agentic AI capabilities was we did not want to impact that workflow. So we kind of put it in a different tab side by side. And largely that's still what we do today. The reasons were good, right? Because we don't want to change that rapidly or in a big way and disrupt the flow of the analyst. But the analyst feedback, in retrospect is kind of obvious, right? I'm not going to go somewhere else to have somebody give me another opinion on the thing that I'm already doing. Now, these steps that you're taking are really, really useful. Bring them over here, right? Yeah. It might have been kind of obvious, but I think for us, it was that acknowledgement of, okay, again, the way we try to solve this is still going to be the same. Get the right context where it matters in the workflow, regardless of whether that comes from an agent or traditional automation, things like that, right? So our process, I think, is almost back to basics, but with some new tools that we're learning how to leverage in a responsible but exciting way.
Awesome. Looking ahead in 2026, what do you consider the next frontier in detection and response that you'll be addressing?
Yeah, so I think for us, right, how do we actually, all that stuff that I said that I'm really, really excited about, leverage the environmental context, understand the attack surface. All of that is also being coupled with customers and security teams in general demanding that MDR services and security operation platforms own more of the environment. And what I mean by that is rather than say like, if we look at the EDR, if we look at the CSP alerts, if we look at the identity alerts, you're probably pretty good. Most customers are like, no, right? I have DLP alerts. I have all these other things that they know provide real signal in certain cases. And if it's really, really noisy, that's our problem to figure out. And I think that's actually a fair challenge from customers. And so I think the game right now is how do you broaden your visibility and ownership, right, of that customer environment in a way that doesn't do what nobody wants, which is just make the queue a lot bigger, right? And so I think that that's really the challenge at hand, and what customers and teams are demanding, and I think they deserve, right? And the exciting part is some of the pieces we've been talking about to leverage both automation and agents to, when appropriate, make this much more possible than it was 12, 18 months ago.
So great. You've got 60 seconds to give us a takeaway message to CISOs, CIOs, etc. What would you tell them?
For me, honestly, and I genuinely mean this, the more we can focus on outcomes customers care about, the better, right? And I fall into the trap too. I talk about the shiny new feature, the capability, the tech, I get excited about it. But for all customers, it's a little bit different. And that's okay. Like, that's good. If you know where you are in your security journey, tell me those outcomes. Tell my cybersecurity advisor those outcomes. Tell your rep at the company those outcomes. The more we can align on them, the better we can start to achieve them, and we can move on to the next one, right? But I think building that trust and having that actual partnership, whether that's through product as a security operations platform or through an MDR service, I think if customers are kind of demanding those outcomes in a certain priority order and we can align on those, then the whole partnership just gets better and better.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle, for joining us today. Also, thank you to everyone listening. We hope you took a lot away from this podcast. For further information on what we've talked about, please head over to rapid7.com. We'll be back next week with another episode in our podcast series. Until then, make sure you subscribe to this podcast on all major platforms and follow the conversation on our socials at EM360Tech on Twitter and LinkedIn. And for more great daily content, head over to EM360Tech.com.